Happy morning to my dear students of class 8, and I am happy to welcome you all to today's botany class. Our today's class is going to be a revision video about lesson 1, which is transportation in plants. So let's get started. And also keep in mind, this revision video is just a quick revision and it is not from exam point of view that whatever is discussed in the video will be asked in the exam. For your exam point of view, you have to read the lesson completely from your textbook and also learn the worksheet what I have provided for this lesson. Clear? Just we'll have a quick revision on this topic, that is transport in plants. Before learning about the methods of transportation in plants, let's define what is transportation. Transportation is the movement of substances from one part of a plant to the other part of a plant through the conducting tissues. So, the movement of substances from one part to another part through the conducting tissues is the definition for transportation. You have to memorize this. What are the materials that are transported in the plants? What are the materials that move from one part of the plant to another part of the plant? There are three materials which can move within the plant. They are called water, minerals and food materials. What are the three substances which moves inside the plant? Water, minerals and food materials. Why does a plant need water? There are certain uses, like for the growth of the plant. If plant needs to grow, it needs water. For the survival of the plant, which means for the plant to remain alive also, it needs water. And for mineral absorption from the soil. Minerals, you know, they are all solid materials, right? So for the solid material to enter into a plant, it needs a liquid material, a solvent, that is water. So the solid materials, that is the minerals from the soil, enter into the plants with the help of water. So what are the uses of water? For the growth of the plant, for the life of the plant or survival of the plant, and also to carry the minerals, the water is essential for the plants. Then what is the route which the water takes to enter a plant? How does water from the soil enter into a plant? You all know that is through the roots it will enter. What will happen after entering into the roots? It will just pass up of the plant through the conducting tissues. What are conducting tissues? Inside the plant you have what are tissues? Group of cells, no? So tissues, conducting tissues are also group of cells. What these cells do? There are two types of conducting tissues called the xylem and the phloem. What are the two conducting tissues? You have to be familiar with these terms, xylem and phloem. What is the difference between xylem and phloem? Xylem always takes water up the plant or throughout the plant, and phloem will take food through the conducting tissue. So this conducting tissue always, phloem carries food, phloem food, like that FF sound you get, no? So phloem is for food and xylem is for water. Okay, so this you have to remember always. And then where all it conducts? So after taking the water or the food, it is given to other parts of the plant. Say for example, if it is water, it is given to the leaves, and if it is food, it is either given to the stem or to the roots. So how water is taken? Through the roots. Then the conducting tissues, either xylem or phloem. Xylem carries water, phloem carries food. It will carry the water and give it to other parts of the plant. This is how water is transported within the plant. There are two physiological processes in the plant that needs water. What are those two physiological processes? One is called transpiration and the next one is called photosynthesis. So mainly a plant needs water for two physiological processes. The first process is called transpiration and the second process is called photosynthesis. What is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water through the surface of the leaves. On the surface of the leaves always there is loss of water through the surface. Okay, how much water is lost? Suppose if we pour 100% of water to a plant, 99% of the water is lost through transpiration and 1% of the water what is poured to the plant or what it takes from the soil only is used for photosynthesis. So out of 100, 99 is lost by transpiration. It is evaporated or escaped out to the atmosphere through the leaves, and only 1% is used for photosynthesis. This ratio also you have to keep in mind. Then if you see a root, what are the parts of a root? This you know, this is a root. You can see two main parts. The tip of the root is called root tip. So the tip of the root is called root tip. You also have fine hair-like structures on the roots, and those hair-like structures are called root hairs. So what are the two main parts of a root? Root tip, which is the tip of the root, and root hairs, which are hair-like structures present on the root. So how does a root cell appear? You have studied in grade 6 itself the structure of a plant cell, no? So like all other plant cells, root cells also have a cell wall. The outer one is the cell wall, the inner one is the cell membrane. This green portion which is shaded, no, the outer one is the cell wall and the inner one is the cell membrane, and this large white space is called the vacuole, which is a special property of a plant cell, and this dark circle is called the nucleus. This is general structure of a plant cell, but since this is a root hair cell, you find a extension which is called the root hair. So labeling of this root hair cell also you should be familiar. Then what will be the transverse section of a root? If you cut a root and observe under a microscope, you can see all these parts. That is called the transverse section, or simply called as TS of a root. Okay, so TS of a root will have all these parts. These labeling also you should be familiar for exam point of view. Okay, so what all, how you can memorize the parts? We can start from the outer layer. The outermost layer, this dark green, darkest green, which is the epidermis. One single layer, can you see, dark green? So this is called epidermis. Epi means outer. So the outermost region is epidermis, and you have here endodermis, that is inner region. So can you see two brown color circles? So the outer brown color circle is called endodermis. So epidermis and endodermis. So below the before that, in between the epidermis and the endodermis, you have many round structures, no? Those structures are called as cortex. So epidermis, endodermis, and in between epidermis and endodermis you have cortex. This is all cortex. Okay, so this region is all cortex. Then in just before the endodermis, you have one more brown color circle. There are two brown color circles. Can you see? So the inner brown color circle is called as pericycle. So what it is called? Pericycle. We have studied, no, there are conducting tissues called xylem and phloem. Where are they? See, these round structures, no, this is called xylem. You have four xylem here drawn, and in between two xylem you have such structure like a semicircle. You have a structure, no? This is called phloem. So xylem and phloem you have. Also in the center you have a empty region, and this central empty region is called the pith. Clear? So this is all about labeling of transverse section of root. You should know to label if a diagram is given. Okay, let's learn some more about conducting tissues. I already told you there are two conducting tissues called xylem and phloem, which can transport food and water. So the two conducting tissues, xylem and phloem, together has a term. Together they are called by a term, and that term is called vascular bundles. So if I ask what is vascular bundle, you should know to tell. A combination of xylem together and phloem together is called vascular bundle. Together it has a peculiar term which is called as vascular bundle. Okay, where can you find xylem and phloem? Which all places in a plant you can find xylem and phloem? You can find the roots, you can find the shoots, as well as you can find in the leaves. So the location of xylem and phloem is roots, shoots and leaves. Clear? Then we learn detailed structure of xylem and phloem. So what all xylem has, what all phloem has. Before that, what it conducts, what all a xylem conducts, I have been repeated several times that xylem conducts water, right? So along with the water, I also told you from the soil, if there are minerals present, those minerals will dissolve in the water, and when the roots take up the water, the minerals will also go up along with the water. So water and minerals can be taken up by the xylem. So here the movement of water through the xylem is shown in blue color arrow mark, and the movement of food through phloem is shown in orange color arrow mark. Clear? So what is the direction of flow of water through the xylem? You all know xylem always takes up water, no? So what is the direction? Can it pass only upward, or will it pass from up to down also? The movement is always unidirectional, that is in the upward direction. Only in this way the xylem can take up water, but never this way. Inverted position or reverse position, it will never carry water, whereas phloem is bidirectional, that is the movement of food can be from down to up, that is in the upward motion, or in the reverse direction, that is from upwards to downwards, whereas in xylem it is always unidirectional, that is only from the soil to the upward direction it can carry water. So from where actually water is taken? It starts from the roots, and to where it gives to all the parts of the plant. Okay, so all aerial parts means the parts which are above the soil, so it is distributed to all the aerial parts. And now when minerals are carried along with the water and given to all parts of the plant, this is called ascent of sap, or water movement along with minerals is called as ascent. Ascent means ascending order, means it is increasing order, no? So from the ground level it is increasing or flowing in the upward direction, and this is called as ascent of sap. Then what about phloem? What all phloem conducts? Phloem conducts food, mainly the organic food. Why it is called organic food? Mainly the starch materials, what it prepares, no? It is organic, since it contains carbon, it is called organic food. Okay. Then what is the direction? I told you already. Phloem always is bidirectional. The food is carried in both the directions, both upwards and downward directions it can carry. Okay, from where to where? From the leaves. Why from the leaves? Because leaf is the place where photosynthesis happens and food is prepared in the leaves only, no? So from the leaves only the food is distributed to other parts of the plant. To where and where it will distribute? It will distribute either to the stem or to the roots. The food what the leaf prepares is given either to the stem or to the roots. This all you have to carefully note it down. So where, if the question is asked, you have to write correctly, that is to the stem and the roots. And this movement of food, so the movement of water, I told it has a term called as ascent of sap, right? Similarly, movement of food has a term which is called as translocation. What is the movement of food called? It is called as translocation. Clear? Now we learn about the detailed structure of the xylem. A xylem has 4 parts which is called tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. What are the 4 parts of xylem? Tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fiber. In this slide we learn about the tracheids, and the remaining 3 we learn we'll revise in the next slide. What is a tracheid? A tracheid is an elongated structure. Is it elongated? Yes, right. It is a long structure. This is a tracheid. It is long and it is hollow. What is hollow? There is nothing inside. It is empty inside, so it is called as hollow structure. Why it should be hollow? Only then the water can flow through the hollow structure. No, you have studied that xylem is the structure which can take up the water in plant. So for the water to flow through the xylem, the central space should be empty, right? So it is a hollow structure and it is dead. These are not living cells, they are dead cells. This also you have to keep in mind. Then it is lignified, which means xylem has lignin. Xylem is made up of lignin. That's why it is called, it is lignified. Then it is tapered. Tapered means, see, in the edges, no, it becomes so narrow, but in the center it is somewhat broader, but the end tapers. Towards the end it becomes so narrow, so it is called as tapering ends. These 5 points you have to keep in mind when, if a question is asked what is the structure of tracheids, you have to write these 5 points. Okay. So still we have to learn about the vessels all. So what is vessel? This is the vessel. So what is the difference? Can you see tapering ends here? No, right? In the tracheids you have seen that the structure has a tapered end, whereas in vessels there is no tapered end. But how it will appear? Just it appears like a tube, right? It appears like a vessels of xylem appear like a tube, and then they are placed end to end, which means if there is one tube, the next tube is just placed next to it. It touches, the one end touches the next end. So one vessel will touch the next vessel's wall. That's why it is called, it is placed end to end, next to next it is placed. Then it is like a pipeline which connects the root and the shoot. So from the root the water is taken, no, to the shoot it gives. So this will act like a pipe, just how you connect your a pipe. Suppose if you want to pour water in the garden, you connect one end to the tap and the next end to the plants, no, for pouring water. Similarly, this vessel is like a pipe which will connect the root. From the root it will start, and where it will end, to the shoot it will end. It acts like a pipe. This is about the structure of vessel. Then we learn some properties about xylem parenchyma. See, learn all these properties because from exam point of view it is important. If I ask, write the properties of vessels in xylem, you should know to write all these points. So please learn. Okay. So xylem parenchyma. Xylem parenchyma are living cells. Tracheids are dead cells, right? Whereas xylem parenchyma are living cells. And then the cell wall is very thin. These are two properties of xylem parenchyma. And then they also store food. This also you have to learn. Xylem parenchyma stores food. They do not transport food because xylem never transports food, but it has a property, special property of storing the food. They can store food. This also you should be familiar. What are the properties of xylem fiber? Xylem fiber has thick cell wall. Xylem parenchyma has thin cell wall, no? Whereas xylem fiber has a thick cell wall, and the function is they provide mechanical support. It gives support to the xylem. Which one? Xylem fiber is the one which provides support, that is mechanical support to the entire xylem's structure. So this is about xylem. And what will happen if a xylem becomes older? Older xylem is called the wood. You know, no, the wood of the plant is nothing but it is the older xylem. If xylem becomes very old, it cannot conduct water. The function of xylem is to conduct water, no? Whenever xylem becomes old, it will not conduct water. So it cannot transport water. This also you have to keep in mind. In the structure of phloem, there are 4 parts called seed tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fiber. See this tube in the center, no, this is called the seed tube, and every portion of the seed tube, it is divided into partitions, no. So every partition of the seed tube is called seed tube element, and also you have a disc between every element. This is called the seed plate which has holes. So seed tubes are generally described as vertical columns. This is horizontal and this is vertical, right? So since they are vertical in position, they are called as vertical columns, and they are living cells. The cells are living, it is not dead like the tracheads all. It is a living cell, and in the cytoplasm there is no nucleus at all. There is cytoplasm in the sieve tubes, but there is no nucleus. Usually living cells have nucleus. No, these do not have nucleus. As I told you, there are perforated discs called sieve plates. What is perforation? Perforation means a hole is called perforation. So this disc, which is sieve plate, is perforated, which means the plate has hole for the passage of food through the holes. This is about the structure of sieve tubes. Then about the companion cells. Where are the companion cells? So if this is the sieve tube, on both the sides you can find companion cells. A bulging structure you can see, a swollen structure. These are called as companion cells, which are adjacent to the sieve tubes. Adjacent to the sieve tubes means they are next to the sieve tubes. What is the function of the phloem to transport food? No, the actual functional unit of the phloem is only the companion cells. They are supportive for the transport of the food, so they are called the functional units of the phloem. Which one? The companion cells are called so. Then what is phloem parenchyma? Phloem parenchyma are again living cells, and their cell wall is very thin. See, this phloem parenchyma and xylem parenchyma have similar properties, like they have a thin cell wall in both the cases. And here in phloem fiber, it is dead. This one is living. Phloem parenchyma is living cell, and phloem fiber is a dead cell. And these cells, the fibers, will give support to the plant or the phloem. Similar to how xylem fiber supports the xylem, similarly phloem fiber supports or gives strength to the phloem overall. So this is about the structure of the phloem. The next topic what we are going to revise is about transpiration. The definition for transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor. So when water is lost, it is not directly lost as water, but it is in the form of water vapor. That's why we cannot see. I told you 99% of water is lost. No, are you seeing water coming out through the leaves every time? No, because it is in the form of water vapor. From the aerial parts of the plant, mostly it is through the leaves, but generally from other parts of the plant also to some extent it can transpire. What are the three ways of transpiration? Through the stomata. Stomata is a structure, a bean-shaped cells in the leaves will have a pore in the center that is called as stomata, and the cuticle, which is the waxy layer of the leaf, the cuticle also will support transpiration, and lenticels also will support transpiration. So the three ways plant can transpire is through the stomata, through the cuticle, and through the lenticels. So this is the stomata. See the center opening, this is a leaf, a part of the leaf is zoomed and shown, and you have kidney shaped or bean shaped cells. No, in between two bean shaped cells there is an opening, and this opening is called the stomata. So we have learned that plants transpire through the stomata. No, so how much they transpire? 90% of transpiration in a plant happens through stomata only. So this ratio you have to be clear. So I told you stomata are tiny opening, and where it is present in the epidermis. Through where transpiration happens? Through the either through the stomata of the leaves or through the young stem. In young stem also you can find a small proportion of stomata. Mostly it is on the leaves, but also in the young stem you can find stomata. So transpiration is through the stomata. High number of stomatas usually found in dicot leaves. Dicot plants, no, dicotyledonous plants you have studied, right? So through the leaves of the dicotyledonous plants only high amount of transpiration is usually found, or high number of stomata is found. And then about the cuticle. What is cuticle? Through cuticle also I told there is transpiration. How much percentage of transpiration? 5 to 10% of the transpiration is through the cuticle of the leaves. Where is the cuticle? Cuticle is the waxy layer. Leaves appears to be shiny, right? So that waxy layer which is found on the leaves is the cuticle. It is a waxy layer which is present on the surface of the leaf, or in the young stem also you can see the cuticle. And through the lenticels also transpiration happens. Where is the lenticel? Lenticel is the tiny pores which is present in the bark of the trees or the older stem. The bark of the trees, no, there are tiny holes on that, and that is called as lenticels. And how much amount of transpiration can happen through that hole? About 0.1 to 1% of transpiration is through the lenticels. Then what are the importance of transpiration? Why transpiration has to happen in plants? For ascent of sap, there are 4 uses. I will list out first and then we will see the detailed use of it. So what are the 4 uses of transpiration? For the ascent of sap, for water cycle, for distribution of minerals, and for the cooling effect. You have to memorize this. For ascent of sap, for cooling effect, for distribution of minerals, and for water cycle, transpiration is helpful in plants. So what is ascent of sap? I told you, the flow of water, the uptake of water from the root to the leaves is called the ascent of sap. This flow of water is continuous flow because continuously there is transpiration. Like some amount of water is continuously lost through the outer surface of the leaves. So continuously water is taken from down from the soil or from the ground level. Okay, this continuous flow is called the ascent of sap. Why ascent of sap happens? It is because of transpiration pull. That is, when some amount of transpiration happens, there is a pressure or pull exerted upwards direction so that water will flow continuously. This suction force is called the transpiration pull. So for ascent of sap, transpiration is helpful. Only if there is transpiration, ascent of sap can happen. Then I told you cooling effect. Even for us, when we sweat, there is cooling effect. No, similarly for plants, when water is lost by the process of transpiration, it will result in the cooling of the plant. And then distribution of minerals. Since water takes up the minerals along with the ascent of sap, if the water has to be, if the minerals has to be distributed throughout the plant, there should be transpiration for the plants. So this is one more use. And then for the water cycle, what is water cycle? Cycling of water in the environment. See, whenever there is transpiration, that water will go to the atmosphere in the form of water vapor, and this water will form clouds, and there is precipitation, which means it is rainfall. So when there is rainfall, again water will come to the ground, again by either by the process of evaporation or by the process of transpiration, again water is returned back to the environment, again it falls down as rainfall. So water is cycling, and transpiration plays an important role in the water cycle. This is one more use or significance of transpiration. What are the factors affecting transpiration? There are many factors. You have to learn this also. Whenever temperature is high, transpiration is high. Upward arrow mark denotes high. Okay, so whenever humidity is high, transpiration is low. Like a formula, you have to learn this, or with concepts also you can remember. Whenever wind is high, transpiration is high. Whenever light is high, transpiration is high, and whenever soil water is more, transpiration is more. If you need explanation of these factors all, you can get back to my previous video about this topic. You can listen that once if you don't understand. Then transpiration is transportation in plants, that is the movement of substances in plants. How it happens? It is because of 3 processes called as diffusion, osmosis, and active transport. What is diffusion? Diffusion is the movement of solute. Like a formula, you have to learn this. Diffusion, solute. Osmosis, solvent or water. Active transport, solute. Okay, so from which to which concentration? For diffusion, high to low. For osmosis, high to low. But for active transport, it is from low to high. So what is solute? Solute means any solid particles. What is solvent? It is any liquid particle, particularly it will refer to water. And then what is diffusion? Already in that previous chart I have given the definition also. The movement of solids, liquids or gases from a higher concentration to lower concentration is called how much movement it will happen until the concentration is same on both the sides. If there are more number of molecules this side, and if there are less number of molecules this side, or if there are more number of molecules this side and less number of molecules this side, the particles will move from high number to low number until there is a balance. So this is called as diffusion. How diffusion happens in plants? There are examples given. Diffusion of solids is for minerals which move from the soil to the root. Suppose soil has solid particles. That solid particles, if the concentration is more in the soil, it moves from higher concentration in the soil to lower concentration, that is inside the plants. Okay, this is first example. Then for diffusion of gases, movement of carbon dioxide or oxygen from the atmosphere to the leaves. Suppose if the atmosphere had more concentration of carbon dioxide or oxygen, and if there is less concentration inside the plant, that is also an example of diffusion, that movement. The third example is diffusion of liquids, water moving from the leaves to the atmosphere. If atmosphere has less humidity or water vapor, and if the plant has more water, then the movement of water through transpiration from the plant, that is from the higher concentration to the lower concentration, that is to the atmosphere, is also an example for diffusion. And the fourth example, diffusion also happens in Chlamydomonas, which is a unicellular organism, and Spirogyra, which is a multicellular organism. This is Chlamydomonas and this is Spirogyra. So these are examples of diffusion. What is the definition for osmosis? Osmosis, the movement of water molecules from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration until the concentration is balanced in both the sides through a semi-permeable membrane. So examples for osmosis in plants is movement of water from the atmosphere to the root cell, that is from the soil to the root cell. Suppose if there is more water in the soil particles and less water in the root hair cell, the movement of water will be from outside into the cell. This is an example for osmosis. Then what is active transport? Active transport is the movement of molecules or ions from a lower concentration to higher concentration against a concentration gradient with the help of energy, which is called as ATP. Then here also the movement of minerals, if there are minerals in the soil and if there are more minerals inside the plant already, and if there are less minerals in the soil, against the concentration gradient, that is with more energy application, the less mineral particles will try to enter into the plant which already has more mineral particles. This is an example of active transport in plants. So this is a quick revision about transportation of materials in plants. In your revision 2, we will be learning about the next lesson in botany. So until I meet you in your next class, you all take care and keep preparing for your exams. Bye bye.